Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Satti, and joining me is my wonderful co-host who happens to be Muzzammil Khan. Assalamu alaikum Muzzammil, how are you doing today?
Wa alaikum assalam, doing great. I hope you all are well caffeinated and charged up for this exciting episode and an exciting morning to a good day.
Right, I'm not well caffeinated. I am really caffeine free. I don't like teas or coffees. But I think today happens to be 6th of November, and in the US it's the night of the 5th of November, and it's certainly a very important day because people are deciding about the power of the ballot and how to exercise it and which candidate will adorn the seat of throne at Washington DC. So to further elaborate on that, Muzzammil, why don't you take the lead?
Yes, our anchor person Jawad Tehami is in the United States of America covering the elections of the world power. Now, these are the most important elections going on in the world right now, and Jawad Tehami is there. Assalamu alaikum, Jawad. What details do you have from ground zero regarding these elections and how they have been turning up?
Right. I think we're trying to reconnect with Jawad. And Assalamu alaikum, Jawad. And what are the details do you have from the ground in the state of the seat of the power in the capital of America?
Right now, I'm standing right outside the White House here in Washington, D.C. And as we speak to you, the results of the presidential election for the 47th president of the United States of America keep pouring in, and clearly former President Donald Trump is leading with a clear margin so far. He has 211 electoral college votes so far against 145 of Kamala Harris. It is pertinent to mention over here 270 electoral college votes are required to become the president of the US out of 538 electoral college votes. As you can see in my backdrop, a lot of Trump supporters are gathered over here outside the White House, and they are highly looking forward to former President Donald Trump racing to the White House as the new president of the US. It is interesting to mention over here that the 7 key states or the battleground states or the swing states, there hasn't been any clarity so far as to which candidate has the lead at the moment against the others. So these 7 critical states are going to be really crucial in deciding who is going to go to the White House as the new president of the US. I'm Jawad Tehami reporting for PTV World outside the White House, Washington, D.C., the United States of America.
Right, and certainly people have, I think, decided who is going to adorn the seat of the throne in Washington, D.C. and certainly we will continue to talk about it as the things further develop and the fog, the mysterious fog will lift that who will win the seat. So now today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, a topic that is very close to my heart because as a Muslim, it is our identity. It's not just about the culture, it is also about the religion, and it is about the divine guidance too. So we have been joined by someone all the way from the Nottingham, from the UK, and he's diligently working on the dawat, or rather dawa, I would say. And how is he doing that, and what is Pakistani state actually doing to make sure that we have a vibrant version of Islam out there? So first of all, I'm very glad that I've been joined by Qari Sayyid Sadaqat Ali Saab. He is the author of the Paigham-e-Pakistan. He is Imtiaz. He has also had the Sitara Imtiaz, and he was also bestowed as a pride of the performance. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Assalam, thank you so much.
Wonderful. And joining Qari Sayyid Sadaqat Ali Saab, we are also very glad that we have been joined by Dr. Musharraf Hussain Al-Azhari. He is the Executive Committee, Karimia Institute, Nottingham, UK's chairperson. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Wa alaikum assalam, dear sister Satti.
Right, thank you so much. So let's kickstart our conversation, and I think I would like to, first kickstart the conversation from you. So you have done the translation of the Quran, and it's called Majestic Quran. What is in that Quran, in the translation, which is different from other translations?
Well, first of all, let's try to understand what this amazing divine scripture is all about.
Right.
The Quran is really invitation to humanity about how to live a flourishing, thriving, and a successful life that makes you an outstanding human being who is generous, who is kind, forgiving, humble, modest, and a person, who is able to really able to do things for the good of others. In fact, Iqbal's idea of khudi, self-esteem, self-confidence, and being a person of honor and dignity, that sums it up very nicely. That is what the Quran is about. That is what makes us fit for paradise, fit for Jannah, so that we can live in the neighborhood of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. So the Quran is really a beautiful, the most amazing literature about how to live good life here in order to be successful in the hereafter.
MashaAllah. Welcome back. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has called the book Ruh, the word has been used. Shed some light upon that, because that has always inspired me, and that has always pushed me to read more.
Great. The word Ruh, when it's used as an adjective for the Quran, here actually means the source of benefit. Rahmah. Rahmah is all about, and Ruh here has that same meaning, that it is actually something that benefits you, and that is precisely what the Quran does. And my mission has been actually to make this accessible to the masses by putting it into plain English, simple English. Secondly, something very unique, which is, the Quran is full of stories. So I've given the stories headings. So my reader now knows, as they read those 5, 6, 7 verses, they know I'm reading about Yusuf's dream, or I'm reading about Yusuf and Zulaikha, okay? So it gives them, grabs their attention, helps them to understand what they're reading. And thirdly, I've identified the central theme of each surah. You'll be surprised, which is very sad. Why should you be surprised? But that is what people are. People think that the Quran is just conglomeration of various verses. It picks up something from the left, something from the right, something here. No, it's not. It is a very coherent text, to be honest. It is miraculous. Recently, I did a commentary of Surah Yusuf, in which I have been able to show that the Nobel Prize is awarded to people who fulfill 5 criteria in literature. So if you want a Nobel Prize in literature, Satti, you have to fulfill those 5 criteria. What are those 5 criteria? And when I looked at those 5 criteria, and then I looked at Surah Yusuf, I said, subhanallah, Surah Yusuf not only meets them, but actually shines beyond all that. And that is the reality of Allah's book. And this is why, we Muslims believe this is a living miracle. And Iqbal used to talk about, this is a living. But the problem is, we must understand it. And that is the job of scholars, to make it in easy English. And now we've, mashallah, made it into easy Urdu as well, which we will be publishing soon, inshallah. We want, everyone should have access to this great divine guidance.
Right, and I don't think so. I'm really aspiring for the Nobel Peace Prize, because the committee has been, I think, accused of a lot of racism, and especially in the nominees. But I think we will save that debate for some other time. But Syed Ali Sahab, I want to direct the discussion towards you. So Paigham-e-Pakistan, it was a very vibrant document. It was given by the state of Pakistan. But and it was sort of a counter narrative, right? But when we talk about counter narrative, it means it should be popularized. Everyone should know about it, but not many people know. Very few selected people know about it. What sort of counter narrative is this? Please go ahead.
First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for having both of us here today.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Secondly, the narrative of Paigham-e-Pakistan, it's created by the scholars of Pakistan. When there was a hype created by the extreme people, they thought, we are killing people, and it's justified. They'll go to the paradise, which is not right.
Not right, yes.
And that's why our scholars from the different sect, they get together and they establish a fatwa. These people are wrong. Islam doesn't say anything. Islam says, when you kill one person, you kill the humanity.
Humanity, yes.
When you save a life, you save the humanity's life. Okay, so they sat together and develop a fatwa. In the beginning, there was about 1900 ulama and scholars who calculate and create this according to the Quran and Sunnah. And later on, we took this fatwa to the Sheikh Al-Azhari, Grand Mufti Egypt, and Dr. Shawki Alam, Dr. Ahmad Tayyib. And later on, we took this fatwa to the rest of the world. So far, more than 7,000-8,000 scholars worldwide, they endorse this fatwa. And what they said, right, whoever read the challenge the right of the nation, they are not Muslim even. You cannot say they are Muslim because they are killing Muslims. You know, if somebody killed a Muslim, kill a Muslim, we're not supposed to say he's a Muslim. You know, so because this nation created with a sacrifice, 100,000 of people sacrificed their lives to get this nation. We are so blessed by this nation having this nation, and to save this nation, our soldiers, more than 80,000 people, soldiers died to save this country, to save this narrative. So that's why this fatwa established, and Alhamdulillah, you are saying this was supposed to be popular and established. It's already established. We're also having a program, Paigham-e-Pakistan on television, every Sunday, 7 a.m. And especially we go to the different universities. We have interaction with the students, with the scholars, and they talk about this subject. And in Karimia, in Nottingham, we have so many events over there. And I'm traveling all over the world to promote this fatwa.
MashaAllah.
So Alhamdulillah, we're doing very well in this regard.
And I think this is a very timely document because it's giving a proper picture. It's not just a counter narrative to extremism, but it is a very positive message about Pakistan being a land of pure, inshallah al-Aziz. It's our aspiration of our founders, and we can tackle extremism. And I think we really have to be very proactive about tackling extremism. Extremism is really one of the great problems with society's development in every sense, not just financially and economically, but civilizations cannot actually prosper when there is extremism, because extremism really stifles human growth in every sense.
Very true.
So that is why our deen actually, alhamdulillah, Islam is ummatun wasata. The Quran says, inna ja'alnakum wasata. We made you the middle nation. Middle means you're away from the extremes of the right, the extremes of the left. And we are seeing actually in the world where there is extremism, those societies suffer very badly. We, of course, the British Muslims are suffering from Islamophobia, which is a result of extreme right wing discriminating against Muslims, attacking Muslims. And wherever that happens, of course, it stifles the growth.
And I think left is equally also responsible. We cannot take off that responsibility. But Dr. Musharraf, I would like to build a conversation on that, right? I mean, I do have a problem, and I often think and reflect upon this conversations that majority of Muslims are having. So after 9/11, the entire Muslim was on the defensive, right? We are proving that we are not a violent sort of a religion, and we are very peaceful. Islam is a very peaceful religion, right? So I mean, there are verses in the Quran that says that you have to go for a jihad in the way of Allah, right? You have to fight. And one of the examples that I would take is the incident of the Bait-e Rizwan, right? How the Muslim ambassador was killed when he was asked to go to the elites of that time, the Arabian society. And Allah really appreciated how entire Muslims gathered, and they said this is not the right way because ambassadors have general amnesty. You don't do with that, right? So why do we Muslims, we have to justify ourselves, Islam is a very peaceful. Why can't we say, yes, there are verses of peace, yes, there are verses of violence, but it is Allah-centric because Allah has created the entire universe, So I mean, this is the narrative that we need to put out there.
I agree with you. We shouldn't be defensive, and we don't need to be offensive either. We need to be pragmatic. We need to be kind. That's the word. Yes, our deen is about kindness. Rasulullah is وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We're about kindness, and and helping others. You know, this is one of the greatest good that a human being can do to other, is to be good and kind. And over these last 20 odd years since 9/11, alhamdulillah, I have focused on not just defending Muslims, but actually being positive and saying, hey, come to us. We are about, Islam is about dawah. We invite you to the banquet of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We invite you to the banquet that leads to true and great life. You know, where you become forgiving, where you become kind, where you become caring person.
Right.
That is our message, alhamdulillah. We don't have to defend the Quran. You know, the Quran doesn't need any defense. It is so powerful, so beautiful. You know, I've been a student of the Bible since my childhood. I studied it in my school in Halifax, you know, and I'm, alhamdulillah, and I worked with bishops and Christians. And I'll tell you, you know, sometimes you just wonder how violent the Bible is, but the Quran, on the other hand, you cannot find the violence. What you would find is peace. For example, you know, the Quran says, again and again it says, you know, if they want to make peace, go forward, make peace.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And then it says, you know, if you have to defend yourself, وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ بِهِ. You know, only retaliate to the extent that they have offended and hurt you, not a little bit more even. Okay, so you know, justice is the
Proportionate attack, yeah?
yes,
Yeah.
and so it's really, the Quran is full of these amazing teachings, and no one can find fault in that, to be honest. Those who do, you know, they are actually false. They are, and you can say how. That's not a, you know, difficult. It's very easy because the Quran is so beautiful and so inviting to a great way of life.
That's very
Mashallah.
true, and thank you so much, sir, for coming here, for shedding light on a very majestic book called Quran, because these are the words of Allah. These are the words directly coming, unaltered words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, directly coming and guiding us. Once again, thank you so much, Sayyid Ali Saab, for coming here, for shedding light on the counter narrative of the Pakistan that has given in the form of the Paigham-e-Pakistan. And certainly we will continue to have more debate, more conversation on these topics, because these are the topics that are very close to our hearts, and they shape our identity, not just as a Pakistani, but
And they
as
help
a
us
Muslim too.
in growing as a nation and as individuals, as people.
Absolutely, and I think we have a great help in the form of the divine revelations, and it's very sad and unfortunate, and like Allah says in the Quran, that majority of us humans, they are ignorant and arrogant, and that really proves the point, because we don't go and read out and explore the beauties and the wonders that are hidden in that. Moving on to our next segment, we are going to talk about, when we talk about the identity markers or shaping of the identity, so we will talk about, you know, Pakistan's arts history and the identity which is rooted in the art. But after a short break, don't go anywhere.
Stay tuned.
Good morning.
Segment. This is about all the horsepower behind the motocross scene here in Pakistan, where we are coming up with a totally different identity for the international world to see regarding Pakistan. That Pakistan is also capable of hosting and conducting these events that are conducted on the international scene. And today we have with us the people who are running and leading this race of drag and dirt racing here in Pakistan. And with this, we would like to welcome...
Of course, so we are very glad that we have been joined by Aamir Zafar. He is the founder of the RRMC Road Rebel Motorcycle Club. Assalamu alaikum, Aamir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you very much for the introduction.
And joining Aamir, we are very glad we have been joined by Ikram Bajwa. He is the CEO of MXD. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much.
Walaikum salam. It is great to be here.
Right, so let's kickstart a conversation, Aamir, and I would like to ask you, what is the scenario of motorbiking or of this arts in Pakistan, or what do we call it, the race arts in Pakistan?
First of all, thank you very much for the very kind introduction. So, in Pakistan, we have so much talent, and we have seen very recently Arshad Nadeem, that's a name which is self-explanatory. We have so much of talent. I would not be wrong if I say that you pick a sport, you pick an art, and you're going to find such experts in that field that you won't find them anywhere. This is not me just talking as a passionate Pakistani. This is me talking from my experience that I've seen on ground. Motorsports, for instance, is such a simple sport, but unfortunately it has not been introduced well so far. We both embarked on this journey to introduce this sports to the masses. And while we talk about masses, we would like to also highlight this masses more so focuses on the potential sponsors. You see, off and on we find people who might say that the government did not support me in XYZ. Nowhere in the world any government supports any struggling artist or any struggling sportsman. It's always the private community who fund them, who sponsor them, who provide them the facilities. And then these people come up. Once they're there, the government is only responsible to give them the amount of coverage that they need. I think this is how I think.
Right.
So we wanted that these poor sportsmen, they're very poor. They hardly can manage buying their own motorcycle. Most of them just borrow a motorcycle from one of their friends to compete in a race. That is the state right now of those people.
Wow.
And I, for one, believe that true talent comes from these circles. Those circles who know how to struggle, who know how to work hard, because they're hungry for success. They're hungry for earning something. They're hungry to earn a name. And that's why when I started going around with this idea, I found so many people who, believe me, are so good. Had they been given the facilities that other motorcyclists in the world they are given, I am very sure that we would have already been on the international scene as far as motorsports is concerned.
Right.
Now, here's a question that I'd like to ask everyone, although I'm not the one interviewing, but you know,
Okay.
how many times have you seen a motocross sport happening on TV?
Almost never.
But can I also ask you, is it sports that is only reserved for the elites? Because investing in the heavy motorbike, this is the idea that I am getting as a lay person, right? So investing in the heavy bikes because they are the ones, you know, I don't know, for the lack of better words, you know, they have a better speed and, you know, they're more sportsy. So is it sports that is only reserved for the elites, or common man or someone who is poor can also participate in that?
Hajra, that is an excellent question, right? And I'm really glad that you asked this question. It's really good. So you see, this is the amount of exposure that we have when we talk about motorsports. Did you know that there are 17 different disciplines in motorsports?
No.
In motorcycle sports only. I'm not talking about the Jeep sports or other motorized sports. Motorcycle sports have got 17 disciplines.
Just the two-wheelers.
Yeah, just the two-wheelers. I mean, you can start from MotoGP, we could go from Moto Gymkhana, there's hill climbing, there's endurocross, there's motocross, supercross. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. There's freeway, long way, ice speedway, etc.
Right.
Now, why don't we know this? Because we all think that it is so expensive. No, it's not. Actually, it is not. There are different sports. Obviously, MotoGP, that's $1 million sport.
Yeah.
But we don't need to get there. We need to do those sports first, which are relatively easier.
Right.
Endurocross and motocross are two types of races in which within Pakistan you can buy a bike for as cheap as 5 lakh rupees, just 500,000 rupees. You know, the 125 cc vehicles right now, the bikes right now, they are available for 5 lakh rupees. What is 5 lakh right now?
Right.
So you're getting an endurocross bike for that price. But the reason nobody buys those bikes is because you can't use those bikes on the road because of their tires and their shock system. You need a track.
Right.
We don't have any tracks.
Now, about the tracks and this development of the sport, the two-wheelers, when we don't give our youth the proper place, the proper outlet, then as a result of the lack of those facilities, we see hooliganism on the roads, where they come up with all of those fancy stunts, but they're doing it on a place somewhere which is fatal for them and dangerous for the people around them. So maybe we have an antidote to that problem if we induct them into this sport. And my question to you would be that a lot of young kids, young boys would like to start, say, back when I was in high school, early teen years, I was so interested in dirt bikes, right? I was interested in them because you could take them off-road, you could put them through rigor and, you know, just the adrenaline of putting your bike through all of that. What would be a nice platform for a young boy to start? in a safe environment?
I'm so happy I came here. Muzzammil, this is again an excellent question. So this is basically the energy or the vision behind opening Motocross and Drag Pakistan, which is my company. Ikram here is the chief operating officer in that company. So you see, I'm a father. I have got elder sons who are 18 and 22 years of age. And the boys who are doing all those stunts and who are using the streets for these stunts are not only endangering their own life, but they're endangering the traffic as well. And very sadly, we see them dying over, you know, that is very bad. As a father, when I see that, I'm really hurt. I don't want a future in Pakistan where, due to lack of proper tracks, this is what results in. This is exactly that theme behind which we wanted to start creating a new environment in which we give a proper track. So far, there have been few odd races happening over the 4 or 5 years. But what is actually happening is that a random place is picked by someone, and they just call bikers to come over there. They race. Those places are not safe for riding, and eventually what they end up is, there was a very recent race, I wouldn't like to name that, but there was a very recent race that took place late last month, and we had 14 bikers getting seriously injured, and women were part of that. They fell down on the tracks. They had broken collarbones, they had broken ribs, they had broken bones, everything. I mean, how can you provide such type of thing to your youth, to your young generation? Just consider, if it was your own son participating, would you do that? So we want to create that international standard in which we give that track.
Just a quick question. Mr. Bajwa, how young were you when you got your first bike?
Yeah, I was in 12th grade, and I was 17 years old.
And what was your first big bike? Like the one that really got you excited?
Yeah, we were excited about, at that time, I was in college, and I was excited about Honda 125. It was a bike of dreams for many youngsters at that time. I was not into super bikes and heavy bikes, but I really liked Honda 125.
Right, and now redirecting the conversation back to Aamir. So speaking of the safe spaces that you talked about, and how does your platform comes into the equation, and is there any serious type of training that is involved? How do you train people out there, and what is the, what are your services, in promoting this particular sports?
I'd like to thank the society that has given me that place to realize this dream of ours. It is in the phase 6 of the Defence Housing Society in Islamabad. So they were very magnanimous to lend me around 105 canals of area, and that was a hilly area on which we are constructing a proper motocross track using boulders, using dozers, graders, and rollers. So these tracks will have all the safety features like tires at the turn, and they'll have those safety features for avoiding anybody going down the mountain. They're going to be having initially small obstacles like a 1 foot or 2 foot jump, or some rhythm sections, or maybe whoops. These are technical terms, but these are part of motocross tracks. So we don't have any track like that. It would not be okay that I provide a track initially that has all the advanced level, supercross level obstacles, which would
we
again
can do 12 foot, 10 foot airs, and that's a pretty hefty task.
Yes. And I just remember you said that in my early teen ages, you were enthusiastic enough. I really thought you were still a teenager, and I was going to take your number down to invite you over there to start.
I would love to.
I started heavy biking at the age of 50.
Oh.
When I was 50, that was when I started heavy biking. When you were asking about expensive bikes, so I have a super bike, I have got an adventure bike, I have got a cruiser, a Harley Davidson, and these are all those bikes which are about 5 million, etc., etc. But you don't need these bikes for the sports that I'm talking about. So our club is present in Islamabad, Pindi. It is very reachable. It is open for everyone. The question that you asked, what sort of facility are we going to provide the people? So few of the racers who have been missing those opportunities, they approached me and they said, why don't you give this platform and prepare it in such a manner that a person who does not have a proper motocross bike, who just has a 70cc or a 125cc, with just the modification of the type of tires so that they can ply their bike on off-road, and they can come and negotiate that. That was such a wonderful idea. I started creating that track. He was with me in all the design processes. And once that track is now complete, I myself took a 70cc and went over that entire track. Now, if you go faster, the thrill and the skill increases, and that you can do with a bigger bike.
Right.
But if you go with a 70, at least you can negotiate these and you can get the thrill again.
Right.
So this way, I want to get those 70 and 125cc boys off the streets and onto that,
And onto the platform.
onto the platform. That's the idea.
It's crazy how just a single cylinder 70cc or a 125cc single cylinder bike can, you know, put you on such a place where you've got fancy machinery doing what it does, and you can still train yourself to become the person who rides that fancy machinery. I'm not going to take brand names, but you know, and it's an exciting time for biker boys of Islamabad and Pakistan.
You know what is the funny thing? The funny thing is that there was one day when I was just getting one section of my track prepared. There was a boy who came on his 70, and then there was a guy who came on his proper motocross bike, and they sort of, you know, started at the same time, and this 70cc guy beat him twice.
Wow.
You know why? Because that bike is more flexible, more maneuverable.
It's
The
lighter.
heavier the bike, the more
Yes.
cautious you got to be, and the lighter the bike. So that was such a boost for him. He went back, he just talked to his friends in the circle, and I received over 100 calls from 70cc and 125 boys. So we would like to come and apply in your track. Could you allow us? America, allow? This track is yours.
Wow, that's
Just come over.
really-
That's why it is there. So that's how it is.
Right.
You just need to give them
And
something.
what are some of the essential skills that you require to, polish yourself up in this sports? Please go ahead.
Yeah.
It's all about the will and the thrill. If you are into
Right.
motorsports and
But that thrill can also lead to a lot of accidents, right? So
yeah,
how to protect yourself and
that is
create
where
a
the
safe
MXD that's the idea of MXD. We want to create a professional, safe and inclusive tracks for
Right.
motorsports enthusiasts in Pakistan. They can come over our tracks, they can do stunts, there will be safety measures available there, there will be proper guidance which we will guide to our enthusiasts, and if we see the talent in them, we will just polish them, we will sponsor them, and they will represent Pakistan on national and international levels, inshallah.
And yeah, sure,
So
go
the
ahead.
idea over here is that first they come over there, we give them the proper briefing of international rules and regulations.
Right.
Then we brief them about the international safety regulations.
Right.
If at first they come over there without any sort of safety measures, we have kits lying over there because we don't let them get onto the track without those. Even if they don't need them, it's a pretty simple track, but that culture has to be created
Yes.
for a helmet and those
Wear
knee
all the gear all the time.
Exactly, exactly. So they come over there, they're briefed, they're asked to put on those, because when you ride for a long time without a helmet, initially it becomes difficult for you to ride with a helmet.
With a
because
helmet.
It feels sort of claustrophobic initially. So this is all part of the training. And it's not like we put them on the major track the first day. There is a very basic track. I mean, a 6-year-old can go over there, which reminds me, Urusa is a female biker.
I was about to ask you this question. Yeah.
So Urusa is a female biker, and I think she's hardly 16. She's not even 16 right now. She's in the start of her O levels.
Okay.
So she came with her dad one day and her eldest sister, and she said, I want to try out this bike. With initially sitting on that 5-10 minutes, she was racing it like anything, and I was so afraid for her, but she didn't fall even once. And that's the sort of talent we have.
Right.
And there are other female bikers as well. I run and manage a motocross team. It goes by the name of Pakistan Motocross Team. So we took that team to one of the rallies that took place in Gorakh Hills, Sindh. Farzana was one of the girls that was in our team. She went there. She competed for the very first time in her life on a rally that dangerous on Gorakh Hills. That was very dangerous, believe me. And she secured first position.
Right.
Wow.
The reason she was able to do that was, number one, her relentless enthusiasm to keep on learning. And second, because she had that training facility available on the motocross and drag facility.
You know, there's a joke I always love to crack with my friends that if you put your kids onto engines and cars and bikes, they won't have money for drugs. So that is one way to keep
So
them
right.
out of bad circles is you put them on bikes and you put them into cars, and they develop this sense of spending money on their passions. And how long before somebody becomes an adrenaline junkie and gets hooked onto these things?
I think one race. Just one race.
That's very interesting. And lastly, I would like to ask you this question before we wrap up our segment. How important, these sort of motorbikes or sports is this in having mainstreaming the conversation regarding women on the bikes? Because in Pakistan, it's not a very common spectacle, especially on the roads. You don't see that much women on the bikes. I think in a neighboring country, we do have a very common spectacle. Do you think your investment in these motorsports is helping, women also get on the bikes?
So, this is a question that I asked one of the female bikers. Her name is Batul, and she hails from Lahore. She's also a biker. I had a very good discussion with her, and I asked her actually the same very question, because that was the logical question to ask.
Right.
So I said, how can I get you to come over here more often and race more often? Because I would like a proper segment for women bikers, and now we have that.
Right.
So it was because of her advice. She said, we already have to face the difficulty of trying to convince our parents if we're not married, and trying to convince our husband if we are
very
married.
scandalous, right?
It is,
Bikes
it
pe
is.
ja rahi hai ya cycle chala rahi hai.
It is. So when that's on the road, it becomes more scandalous. When it's on the proper track, it can't be, because that's a very professional thing.
Right.
So she told me that initially you will have to raise funds so that you can provide us the accommodation and maybe the traveling to get to your track and then race over there and then leave. And if we win, you got to give us some awards and some cash incentives so that the word gets around. And that was very doable. So I said, okay, let's do it. And within, I think, less than 2 days, she told me that I think I've already prepared 7 female bikers to come over. I mean, that's a wow factor
absolutely.
right there.
And that just shows that how women are actually willing to invest themselves. So one last...
I just want to mention one thing, that unfortunately in Pakistan a lot of things goes to waste just because they do not get the proper facilities and sport available. Because if you have seen that most of the sport goes to the cricket community. I am a cricket fan myself. I'm a huge cricket fan. It's not that there is something wrong in sporting cricket, but there's an example of Ashad Nadeem. He just won gold medal in Olympics in javelin throw after 40 years in Pakistan, and that's an incredible achievement. And there's another guy, Aslan Ash, who is considered to be as a king of the video game community, especially in Tekken. But if you go back and see their training days, there was little to no sports available for them. And I want to take this opportunity and urge the government and the sponsors to take these sports seriously as they take cricket, because all these sports have the potential to put Pakistan on the global map.
That's very true. And thank you so much for these concluding remarks. You want to add something
Yeah, just
very
taking,
quickly?
taking lead from his what he just said. Struggle right now that we have, if this is a message you could get across to the sponsors, is that people don't know what a huge potential this sport has. So if our sponsors really knew, they would, the high adrenaline and the marketing potential, I'm sure they would leave sponsoring cricket and they would jump onto
Absolutely,
motocross.
absolutely, because there is a lot of potential. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming here, for shedding the light on the motorsports. And we will continue to have such sort of interesting discussions, but we would like to wrap up our program. Until next time, it's a goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good morning.
Good morning.